Hi, my name is Marty Plecki. My wife and I are visiting our second daughter, Cristine, and her husband, Joe, in a rural part of Florida for a while. And since it's rural, they have a few acres here. There's an endless supply of things to do. And the project that I'm going to work on today is hooking a generator to their house wiring. This is the generator here. In order to hook this to the house wiring, you have to do several things, and it can get very costly. Probably, I suppose if you had an electrician do it, it might be, I don't know, $300 to $500. I could be wrong about that. I really didn't check it out. A cord like this, an extension cord to take 50 amps from this socket of the power supply to the house wiring, costs anywhere from, say, $50. This is a 6-foot one, so it's not that. That would be around the $50 mark. If you wanted to get one that was, say, 8 or 10 or 12 or 15 or 25 feet long, like is sometimes used for RVs to hook up to power at a campground. Those guys can go up to $200. Anyway, I got this one and some other parts for this project for a total of $15 from a fella who salvages parts like Habitat Restore, and sells them to the public. Anyhow, this guy is really tough to get in. You can imagine it's a big it's a big socket. But I'm going to put just a dab of grease on the end of these, a dab of grease on the end of these contacts. Not a lot, very little, because grease goes a long way to make it easier to get it in and out, and also to provide some level of corrosion protection. This is the rest of the stuff that I got for the $15. This is a 50 amp circuit breaker for a 220 power supply. So how this works is you hook one part of the 220 to this side, the other part to this side. It goes through the circuit breaker. This is off, this is on, and it comes out here. And this circuit breaker gets attached to this power box. And I've already taken the screw out of here, and I'm going to just use this part of the connection point here. So for the 220, one side of this circuit breaker here gets attached to this side of the bus bar. The other one gets attached to this side of the bus bar, and then you connect these to the parts, the appropriate parts in the utility inlet box that powers this house. This is how this guy fits in there. It just clicks in the back and then rotates into position on those contactors. This 50 amp breaker would cost about $20 at the store, maybe Home Depot or Lowe's or some place like that. And this box, with the cover, and everything else inside it, would cost over $100. So $15 was a great buy for this equipment. Before I bought these, I had gone to the store multiple times, and before I did all that even, I took a bunch of detailed measurements, and they're all recorded on this little sheet of paper. This is what the interior of the power box looks like. There's nothing down here, but there's enough room for me, because I measured it out, to put part of this connector in that spot. And then I'll run the wires from these 2 points up to these 2 points, and then run the ground up here and run the neutral here, and that'll complete the connections. Yeah, we got a critter here helping helping to distract me. I also took a measurement on how deep this area of the box is, so that I know that the height of the circuit breaker and this connector will fit in this power box. And this is their main power panel, circuit breaker box. And there's not room for one more circuit breaker here. And there's a spot here for another main, but there is no main here. On the opposite side of the house is the power inlet box with a main disconnect. This point of the house is about kitty corner from their breaker panel, and this is where the power comes in. And I think the power company did it because their source for power is on this side of the house, and they didn't want to route wires all over the top of the house to get to the other side. So they conveniently, for them anyhow, they put it here. So there's the meter, and this is the box for the main disconnect. So here's the main disconnect. I'm going to take this panel off. So these are hot right now. Hot meaning there's full 220 volts live in this spot, and I'll show you how that reads. So here's AC volts on this multimeter. And we have 238 volts, almost 240 volts. So it's important, it's important not to touch those if another part of your body is grounded. Knowing that, I'm going to stay away from those, because mainly the stuff I'm interested in doing in this box is right down here, or kind of away from those spots. So this is what needs to go down there. And you can see that it just kind of fits. Now what I'll have to do is cut this side of this contactor off and just put this part right in here. And that will just fit. Now the height from back here to right here corresponds to where the this part is on the cover plate. So I'll have to make a cutout here. I have to measure it out and cut it out here so that the 50 amp circuit breaker will be exposed so you can turn it on and off. I spent about 10 minutes off camera thinking about where I want to cut this thing on this side, and I want to keep this flash shield on it. So, now the other thing to consider is I can't put this right on the bottom, because obviously this circuit breaker extends below. By the look of it, even with it up a little bit, I have enough room to make all the connections and have it fit properly. Now, I could put it this way. You might think, well, why not put it sideways? But the problem here with putting it other than vertical is a fail-safe has to be incorporated in this entire project such that when this is on, the main breaker up here is off, and vice versa. When this is on, this has to be off. Otherwise, when you have the generator connected, if that happens to be on, you're sending electricity through the utility wiring, and it could be dangerous for any linemen working on the wiring to bringing power back to the neighborhood. So it's very important that you have this fail-safe plate in place to make sure those two things are not on at the same time. I pounded these ground wires over to the side to make a little bit of extra room for this guy here. And I've always keep in mind that these two leads right there are hot. So you don't want to touch them if you have another part of your body grounded. Anyhow, if you're afraid of that kind of thing, don't do it. I've done it often enough that I'm very respectful, but not afraid. So here's my contactor. It's ready to go in there, just like that. And there's plenty of room for the circuit breaker, for all the wires. I'll put the wires right through here, and it'll be a really, in my opinion, a really nice installation. And I'll put a hole in here to secure this whole thing. The next part is to fabricate a weather barrier for the plug. And what I have here is the remnants of the circuit breaker box that I bought for, I don't know, $5 or $10. And I'm going to cut it out with a cutoff wheel. I've got a glue tab here, another tab that I'll bend down and use to glue. This one bends down, this one bends down. And this whole thing will go kind of right here. Then I'll paint it to although it's got a zinc coating, so it should weather pretty good. But the paint will adhere too because the zinc is so weathered, in my opinion. I have most of the cuts made. There's 2 more to go. It's noisy, it's intimidating, but when you gotta do it, you gotta do it. This is the last cut, but a lot of the sparks are going to go at the camera, so I'll start it, but then I'm going to stop it. I think this box is shaping up okay. It's not perfect. Once I get this tab here bent down, the objective is to slip this plug in here, and it'll sit there like that and not come out into the weather. The cuts I made were right on target, but this whole assembly with the circuit breaker sits too far back for this panel. That's as far in as it goes, and you can see that the panel is not straight here with this thing, and rather than try and bend it and make this main circuit breaker not fit properly, what I'm going to do is, or what I did is I fabricated this little guy to bring this whole assembly out a little bit so that it fits with the cover plate. Now it's fitting really well. Making the hole to get the wires into this box was really perplexing for me. I had no idea how to make the hole uh, quickly and nicely. I found this. Joe had this ceramic hole maker in one of the drawers, and I started making the hole, and it seems to be doing the job. It's not what you'd call easy, but here it goes. The hole is drilled, and it took less time than I thought. So this guy goes right there. This guy is in solid. And this fits perfectly. Now what I'm going to do is make a little plate. The plate will slide from side to side such that this and this cannot be on at the same time. Working with thin wires is a lot easier than working with heavy wires. But this little elbow improves the ability to handle these really heavy wires through a oh, well, who do we have? You have here a helper and an entertainer. How about that? This is Maddie. So, Maddie, you could do something beside entertain and hand me the tube that's going to fit into here, the long one. Yeah. And that cutter. And that other elbow. Thanks for the help, Maddie.
I'm making sure everything's good.
Very good, Maddie. I like that. I'm cutting this tube with a cutter here. Joe's got almost all the equipment. This makes it very quick to cut versus a saw. That fits in here with some glue, but I won't do that until all the wires are in place. Otherwise, it gets too tough to make the bends when they're already glued together. I measured the wire that I needed to contain in all this stuff and cut back the outer insulation. This is the tube that will contain most of the rest of this, just to make it waterproof. When I get done with putting all these fittings on there, I'll glue this and stick it in here, glue this, stick that in there. Right now I'm gonna put the last of these elbows on, and you notice that I pre-bent the wire a little bit. It just helps. Anything you can do to help make the bends is a good thing. And then pushing it through helps too. So this is how it's going to end up. Of course, they'll all be connected. There's no pressure or stress on this joint, so I'm not too worried about the integrity. I have the cuts and the bends for this fail-safe slide plate laid out on the piece of metal, and I'll be cutting those with a abrasive wheel in a minute. The slide is all cut out and bent to form now, and it looks like it's going to work just perfectly. I have 3 pins that this slide will slide on, And I want to make them very accurate regarding the drilling. So I've checked it multiple times. I put a dot where the screw should be. And what I did here was I put lines to keep the drill in the right spot, because sometimes the drill walks off and it obliterates the dot, and then you don't know where your hole should be. So this should help me keep it on track.
It's right here.
Well, this turned out okay. This is just going to slide back and forth like this. And I'm going to put this slide plate right in here, right there, and I'll put the cover plate between these two nuts. And to make sure that they don't come off, I'll put some Loctite on them to keep them in place and from loosening.
Let's keep playing. Where's the...
It slides perfectly. So this is the main disconnect, the 200 amp disconnect. And when it's on, this can't slide. But if the power goes out, you would push that to off and slide this over and move the circuit breaker for the portable power source to on, and that would power the things that you want to run in the house. The connections are ready to be made now. The ground goes to either of those two terminals. This is the neutral wire, so the white neutral will go to that. This green goes to the ground. I've already put the wires into the circuit breaker. Just going to make sure they're nice and tight. All right, those guys will go right up here. Perfect. It's important to make sure that none of these wires touches those two hot points while you're making these connections. So I'm making these connections now that are not hot, and it's important to make sure that they're tight. Yeah, nice. I made the crimp, and now as an added security, I guess, or insulation, I'm applying some heat shrink tubing to the connection. All the connections are made, the two power connections, and I turned off the main breaker to make that, because as I loosen those, if there was anything running, it would be sparking while I'm trying to connect. So the better thing is to turn the power off. And the ground and the neutral are right here on this bus bar. So we're all set to go. All I have to do is put the cover plate on, and it's ready to go when the power goes out. Well, there it is with the cover plate and installed, and you can see that this is off and this is off, so you can slide it over. And in a power outage, I would just flip that on and start the generator and power most of the things in the house with the generator that Joe has. If you got something from this video, click the thumbs up icon Click the bell icon if you can find it. And it would be great if you subscribed. So pause and do it now. Otherwise, the video is going to end pretty quick and you won't get a chance to click the like and bell. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Have a great day.